Hi everyone, Ian Harvey here, massage therapist. Today we're going to talk about how to do massage without your thumbs. Thumbless massage. Why would you want to do this? Well, you may have a thumb injury. We've talked about this quite a bit in the past. I actually have another video, which you can see in the corner down there. Before we move on, let's talk a little about the anatomy and play here. We've got, that video talks about what to do when you've hurt your thumb, how to rehabilitate it, and it talks about something called a thumb vacation. And if you are planning to not use your thumbs for the next few weeks, which is a great idea if you are starting to progressively get more and more pain here, or if you have an acute injury, then there may be some changes that you've got to make. First of all, we're going to learn how to do certain moves that usually use the thumbs without the thumbs, such as petrissage. It can still feel great, and you might find yourself using it more and more even once your thumbs are feeling better. Then we're going to learn about some techniques that can take over for the thumb. So if you want to do some pinpoint moves, there are some other tools that you can use. And finally, we'll talk about techniques for specific parts of the body, and I'll give good examples of ways to give great massages without these guys. If you'd like to skip ahead, click on the time codes down in the description. All right, so I've got my friend Christina here.
Hey.
And first we're going to start with how to do some of the things that we typically do with thumbs without them. So that's going to be petrissage and working on one part of the body on two sides at once. So basically squeezing. How can you squeeze without your thumbs? It's not too hard. So let's start with petrissage. You know petrissage, and it's typically a very thumb-heavy move. But some of you may do more of a duck grip. This is the kind of petrissage that I like. I do like the pincer grip, but I also like to use flat fingers and a flat thumb. I find that it draws up the tissue for a nice myofascial hold. But when you're doing this, you might find yourself involving this part of your hand, this thenar eminence. And if you are already doing that, or if this is your first time trying it, it's not too hard. You might find that you can just take the thumb out of the equation altogether. So my thumb is hanging out, but it's not doing anything. So this is thumbless petrissage. You can still get a very nice grip. You can still draw up that tissue. And it can feel actually a bit broader than any other kind of petrissage. Regular petrissage can feel a little bit pinchy. It can feel a little bit too pinpoint. So especially for more sensitive clients, you might find that this thumbless version is even more effective. And it's really easy for your thumb. Another nice feature of the thumb is this opposition mechanism where you can meet across the palm. And it makes it nice for working with, say, the deltoids. So this is something that, how on earth could I do this without my thumb? Again, you can do this with a nice thumbless petrissage, or you can choose to involve two hands. So if I wanted to work on two sides of the shoulder at once, I could simply have my fist working on one side, while my fingers, or just a supportive hand, works on the other. And this can feel really great. It's nice to have two hands, one working on one side of the body, one working on the other, because it really mobilizes the shoulder. So this can actually be superior to just using your fingers and thumb. And again, it's very broad. So that's how you replace that squeezing. But what about the other things that the thumbs are great for, like applying pinpoint pressure? There are some massage modalities, like shiatsu and Thai massage, that rely pretty heavily on using these thumbs as a stable and strong base. The thumb is great for this because it forms this straight line all the way up your radius. So you can give a good deal of your weight straight down in a straight line. Well, your fingers can do that too. It's just a little bit more precarious because you have a longer length. Your thumb has a lot of these intrinsic muscles that are very powerful, very strong, that are able to stabilize it. Versus your fingers, they have a more difficult time. The leverage is worse because you're having to pull from a further distance. But if you use 6 fingers, you can still do nice, deep pinpoint work including trigger point work, including this stripping work, without having to involve your thumbs at all. And this can be just as powerful, and it can feel just as good or better. The one thing I like about this thumbless massage, these thumb vacations, even if the ones that I've been on have been involuntary, I like being forced to try new moves, and working without your thumbs is a great way of experimenting, of kind of forcing creativity. Necessity is the mother of invention, so you're going to find yourself coming up with all sorts of cool new stuff. And for things like this, for this nice petrissage along the back, feels great, but instead of using two hands that are both squeezing, you can use two hands that are feeding into each other. You can use the heels of the hands to draw the tissue together. And of course you can use that thumbless petrissage. It's going to feel a little different, it's going to feel awkward at first, but once you get used to this, I promise you'll find it becomes much easier, and I can guarantee that your clients aren't going to notice. You're still the same person who gave them that last massage. You've still got your same knowledge of the body, you've still got that same philosophy about massage. So it's going to feel similar, and I even get some neat new compliments when I have to take my thumbs out of the equation. People tell me, hey, have you ever done that before? I like that. So how about applications for specific parts of the body where you would normally use the thumb? The thumb is great for some petrissage here in the neck. In fact, it's really great. But you can do without it. You can come to either side and use your fingertips here. Just think of how you use your thumbs. You use them to kind of lift and scoop that tissue. You use them to dig in here at this occipital ridge. And as you get into the scalp, just bring that scalp together, give it some nice traction toward and away your other hand. For the wrist and forearm, I have another video where I do an arm routine that's pretty thumb heavy. I do like being able to create this C shape with my hand and apply it to the forearm as I manipulate the hand. Well, if my thumbs are out of commission, I'm going to have to figure something else out. So, an excellent alternative is to work on this anterior surface of the forearm while the client is face down, while they're in that prone position, and to work on this posterior portion while the client is face up. So work on the forearm in ways that allows you to use your body weight instead of that squeezing pressure. And make sure to come all the way up to these epicondyles. And to work on all parts of the forearm, not just the parts that are most convenient. So it's most convenient for me to work on this strip, but I also want to work on this strip and this strip nearest to the ulna. So just make sure that you're still being as thorough, even though you're having to make modifications. And you can still incorporate movement here. So just bring their wrist off of the edge of the table. And Christina, I would like you to draw your hand back and splay your fingers here, and then come back to neutral, and then repeat that just very slowly. And as they do that, I can do these nice body weight stripping moves. For the calves, again, petrissage can feel great, but we can come at this with both hands from both sides. So don't let your wrist get to too extreme of an angle here, but you can make nice circular motions that compress the gastrocs and the soleus toward the other palmar surface. You can also use knuckles here. Or your soft fists. And I've been remiss in not saying this yet, but you can always use your forearms and your elbows for a nice thumb-free experience. If you're on a thumb vacation, this is a great opportunity to get in touch with your forearms. And I've got a whole video on that. If you'd like to see that, click on the link down in the description. Now, how on earth do you work on feet without your thumbs? I mean, you've got to do this thing, right? No, you don't need to do that alternating thumb thing. In fact, I don't like to do that pretty much ever. I like, instead of using one thumb, I like to use 8 fingers or 6 fingers or whatever's comfortable for you. To do that, I grasp the foot and I angle my fingers up toward the sole of the foot. And I drag. I'll come back into my heels just a little bit. I'll rock back and I'll allow my body weight to do this work. And I can think of no good way of showing you this, but right now my fingers are traveling like this, up in strips, all the way up to the ball of the foot. And again, make sure to explore every part of the foot all the way to this outermost surface. Explore this arch of the foot. And even though you can't use your thumbs, make sure to be just as thorough. So here again, I'm doing that thumbless petrissage for the heel. And you can always come to the side and wrap your fingers around and squeeze. Same here. And again, you can use your fist here. Allow those metacarpophalangeal joints to sink in, those punching knuckles. And you can use these door-knocking knuckles, your proximal interphalangeal joints. And just as a note, it might look like I'm hunched over here, and I am, but it's because I'm resting my elbow on my own leg. I'm not having to use my back to keep me upright. So for the anterior thigh and leg, especially down here on the anterior leg, I do like to use my thumbs so that I can drop down and do this lateral spreading. But if you're doing thumbless massage, you can use fists here. And again, just travel laterally. If you like to do circles with your thumbs here, you can do circles with your fist. If you like more power, you can tuck your elbow into your side and allow that to drive your movements. Just don't let your wrist get to too awkward of an angle. If you need to, spread your legs, anchor yourself against the side of the table, and relax into this. So this might mean using new stances, sometimes a little bit deeper. You can also use your knuckles here, and you can come around to the other side of the table and use your fingers. One caution is that if you find yourself overusing your fingers, if you find these getting tired, then switch to fist. Switch to the palmar surface of your hand, which also works here. Just be careful, once again, not to put your wrist in a compromised position. With the thigh, this is another area where you can use those opposing palms or opposing fists. And just do what you would do with this duck grip, which is lifting the tissue. As I lean back, I'm drawing the tissue up toward the ceiling. Now, how on earth am I going to work with the hands now? Because with the hands, you have to use your thumbs, right? It's much the same way that I work with the feet. I've got my fingers pressed up into the palm, and they're making strips. At the same time, they're getting a little bit of traction along that shoulder there. It all feels really good. When you're working with individual digits, you can, again, make this a thumbless affair. The thumb can just sit this one out. And if your thumb is nice and injured, you might find that you still feel a bit of a twinge as you're holding your thumb away like this, find different ways to hold your thumb so that it can truly relax during these moves. If you still find yourself recruiting these intrinsic thumb muscles, then again, just try to find a way so that it can sit out. And finally, the neck and shoulders. This is a place where I really like petrissage. I like being able to draw up that trapezius tissue from this new angle and incorporate these scalenes just a bit and to outline the clavicles. But if my thumbs hurt, I need to do something else. So typically, I'll explore the use of my fists. Still think about scooping the tissue, of mobilizing the shoulders, mobilizing the neck, perhaps alternating so that it brings a little movement to the neck. Don't overuse the mobility in your wrists to do this. Let a lot of this come from your arms. Allow your forearm muscles to mostly act as stabilizers. That said, I do definitely do some flexion and extension at the wrist joint to make this happen. And still outline these clavicles. You can come to one side and use different surfaces of your hands to interact with these scalenes in a gentle way, just the same as you would with your thumb. Like right now, I've got fingers on the side of the clavicle, superior and inferior, and I'm outlining on either side. My pressure is this way. It's down in this direction, it's not this way. If I were to press this direction, that could cause some distress because I am toward the anterior neck, and the scalenes might get a little freaked out by too much direct pressure because they are rarely touched. So draw your pressure this way, and it feels much less invasive that way. It feels a lot safer, and it just feels nice. Creates some fascial traction along these tissues. You can use your fingertips here to really work with that superior angle and to dig into that supraspinous fossa of the scapula. Alright guys, let me know what you think in the comments section. If you've got techniques of your own, I think this could be a good opportunity for us to share some information, learn some new stuff from each other. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you next time.